Good afternoon, Isabelle Matter, General Manager of the Hotel Casa in beautiful, lovely San Francisco. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, Isa.
You're so
Hello.
welcome, Pierre. Good afternoon. How are you?
Very nice. I love the heart just behind you that does match my lovely jacket today.
I
The
know you
blue
should
is
have a heart
nice.
behind you.
That's true. Well, Isabel, thank you for taking some time today. You have a very busy schedule.
Sure, sure.
And I appreciate it. We appreciate it at Standard Textile. We are launching a new initiative and we are doing some interviews
Okay.
about people who recently traveled.
Okay.
So you recently traveled, correct?
I did. Yes.
Okay. So let me tell you a bit about how this interview is going to go, about the frame of it, just for you to get a sense, okay, of what's going to happen.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about your most recent purchase regarding traveling, regarding your last trip, last travel. There are no right or wrong answers, okay? We are just trying to really get your story in your own words, okay? So don't feel like you have to say something that you think sounds good. Just say it like it is, like how you feel about it, and it's going to be perfect. We're going to dive really deep and ask some detailed questions about situations sometimes. It
Okay.
may sound awkward, but but we're going to go deep sometimes, okay? So don't be surprised if I ask you some questions that may sound unusual.
Okay.
The way you have to think of this interview is just like if it was a documentary that we were filming and that we were trying to get the scene down, as far as details. So you are the person, and we're going to try to really narrow down every details and try to film you and have a scene on where you are in the main stage. So we're going to try to build that image. And we're going to get all the details right for a close-up. Do you have any question, Isabel, about what the idea is and where I'm going to go?
Well, I have one question. If I think about, let's say, a couple of trips, throughout the questions, depending on my answer, can I go from one trip to the other?
I think you could. Yes, you could. However, we really want to try to focus on your last trip. But yes, I mean, you could refer to a different one, but the idea is to narrow down on this particular last trip you had. I mean, you
Okay.
can refer to another one, but we really want to try to focus on this one and not go to a different situation too much. If you
Okay.
can,
Yeah. No
if
problem.
possible. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me start by this question.
Yeah.
We're going to start by the time. Put yourself at the time you did purchase that last trip you did. I would like you to think about the situation, and if you can tell me where you were when you did buy that trip. Where were you?
In my office.
In your office. Were you alone at the time of the purchase, or did you had someone with you? Was your husband in the area and coming with you, or you were alone?
Alone.
Alone. What time of the day was it? Do you remember?
Late
Morning,
afternoon.
late afternoon. Do you know if it was during the week, Friday through? Do you know what day it was, or?
Well, it's hard to answer because I think the act of purchasing and looking and deciding happened on more than just one day. So it's a
Correct. So here I want to talk to you about the day of the purchase, the day you purchased that ticket or that
day I
trip.
bought the ticket. I don't think I remember the exact day, but it may have been a Friday, perhaps.
Okay. So not during the weekend, correct? During the week,
Yeah,
weekdays
yeah,
at your office. Um, what did during the day or at night?
during the day.
During the day. Was it cold or hot outside?
It was nice. The usual blue sky, sun shining in San Francisco. Yeah.
Do you know what month it was? Do you know
Yeah.
what week it was? When was that?
November.
November.
And I think it probably was maybe the second week or so.
Second week of November. It was so close of being the 5th of November, which happened to be my birthday, but that's okay. That's okay.
I should have remembered.
So it was a nice day in San Francisco, second week of November during the week.
Yeah, I think it was a little chilly, but from my window, it looked pretty nice out there.
Looked pretty nice. Do you remember how you did purchase the product? Did you know what website you were on, or how did your transaction happen?
Let's see. In terms of the lodging, I did some research for places in the area where I was going. And once I narrowed down where I would be interested in staying, then I reached out to the lodging facility directly.
So when you reached out to that facility, did you contact them by email or did you call them to make the transaction?
I did both. The first touch point or the first communication was via email. And then I think I had a couple of phone conversations with them in between.
Okay, so at the time when you did the transaction, when you actually paid and booked that trip,
online,
did you use online? Mm-hmm. So online, and you pay by credit card? Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this. So we talked about that purchase. Was it difficult to do at the time you purchased that? Was it, just the fact, put yourself at the time when you did the transaction, not before, but at the time of the transaction. Was it smooth? You had no problem? It was, where you were, what to pay for, what to expect, or did you still had, at the time of the purchase, was it difficult? Did you find it difficult?
No, not difficult. No.
Not difficult. No. Okay.
So the purchase itself, if that's what you're referring to, was not difficult.
Yes. Okay.
I think for example, I added an extra night to a stay. That was a little more, not difficult, but a little more involved. But the purchase itself was just very easy.
It was very easy. Did you consult anyone before the purchase? Or did you make your decision on your own?
Decision on my own.
What made you decide to buy it at that precise moment? Why did you buy it at that precise moment? At the time of you did the transaction, why did you think it was that time and not later on?
Mm-hmm. Well, because my trip was shortly thereafter, and I knew that if I waited longer, potentially it could be sold out and I could be out of luck finding, lodging facility to stay at.
Okay. So is that the reason you bought it that specific day or not no. Before or not after, correct? That at this precise time you felt like it was the right time to do that transaction?
I had looked around and I had done my research and I sort of had narrowed down, what I was interested in. And so I knew that it was going to be either A or B. And A was sold out, so I went to B, or vice versa. But when I did the purchase, I had done all of the required, research, etc., for me to know that I was going to purchase that and was ready to do that.
Got it. So when you did buy that product, was it by default because you had to buy option B and you prefer to have option A, or did you end up getting the options you were the most, the most willing to get? You had two options and you're like, well, one is out. Okay, I have no more choice. Or
they were pretty similar. In my mind, they were pretty similar. So I was fine with either one.
got it. So you didn't feel like you were losing something by getting with the options left. The
No.
options left. Okay. All right. Isa, thank you for this. Now,
Your
and
question,
that's
I think a lot of it depends on the destination as well, or the purpose of the trip.
right. So here, the purpose of your trip was for leisure, correct, or for business?
Yeah, leisure.
Were you traveling by yourself, or were you traveling with other people?
Family.
May I ask you how many people were traveling with you?
Two.
Two other people. Got it. Okay. We are going to go back in time.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to try to think of the first time you were thinking, we're going back in time, you were thinking of traveling for this trip. The first time, try to think of the first time you were thinking, oh, I'd like to go there. Do you know, could you put yourself in that situation where you had that little click, little voice telling you, hey, it's about time, or something like that? Do you remember that first thought, the first thought you had about doing that trip?
Probably a couple months before. I mean, for me, thinking about a trip or trying to book something somewhere is sort of a regular routine thing that I think about pretty much always, but maybe a couple of months before.
Do you know how long before? Just roughly 2, 3 months, 6 months, a year? Just to have.
I'll say 2 months before.
2 months. When you were thinking about this, your first thought, were you alone thinking about that, or did you share this with? Did you come up with a discussion, at the table at night with your family or around a drink, or could you try to think on how this came around, or it was just on driving to work, or?
No, I mean, the first thought was just me thinking about getting away and going somewhere and, going on a trip. And I'm sure I must have mentioned it to my family and say, hey, what do you think about that? And they were a go, and then I just made it happen.
So when you mentioned it to your family, do you know where you were?
At home.
At home. Mm-hmm. And when you discussed it with your...
With a glass of wine.
With a glass of wine?
Most likely.
One or two glasses of wine, or just one?
I don't remember, but probably one for sure.
One for sure. Do you think you discussed that with your husband and your children, or only your husband, or who do you think was part of that conversation?
Both my husband and my kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember what the trigger was to have that thought? Did you see something, or on TV, or did you look at an album picture one night and you said, oh well, or were there too much stress at work? What do you think triggered that desire to travel?
So the same as it always is, which is anytime I see an opportunity potentially to get away or do something, go on a trip, I look at that.
So you wanted to get away from work? No?
No, not get away from work, but just create an experience. I think that's what it is. probably just be away with my family and spend time with them and create an experience for us to remember.
Can you tell us about the experience at that time you were trying to achieve? What was the kind of experience you had in mind at that time? I'm not asking you about the experience you had, but at that time, what was your first thought of the experience that you shared with your family? Do you remember what you talked to them about? What words or what adjective or what pictures you had in mind about that specific trip you wanted to share with them?
Discovering, going somewhere we had not been before, so a new place. Nature was definitely, outdoors was definitely part of that, so that was another one. And really, I think do something that would that my teenage son would really be interested in as well and excited about. Also, a trip that would be fairly easy in terms of, easy to get there, easy to get around, easy to, because we didn't have, a huge amount of time. So it was kind of a shorter trip. So something that would fit just perfectly within that time frame.
Was the weather part of the equation? Were you looking for warmer weather or something colder, or was it part of? Did you have that discussion?
No, I think the only thing I didn't mind if it was going to be a little cold, or that wasn't too much of a big concern. I just didn't want to have, rain, or I just wanted to make sure we could be outside.
Okay. And when you say outside, I I feel like I'm asking you those questions and I'm from the police.
Wait, that had not crossed my mind, but now that you say it.
Well, so you said, well, not too far. What was your reference as far as not too far? Because some people it's an hour away. You can go to the wine country and it's not too far. For some people it's LA. For some people it's Hawaii.
Yeah,
what did you had a notion of? And then let me ask you that second question: was the transportation? Did you have that in mind as well? Oh, is it okay for me to fly or to drive, or did you, as far as going there, on your first thought, was it part of it, or just you didn't have that in mind at the time? Maybe it came later, but
no, I thought of the destination first.
Okay.
And then figured out how to get there.
Got it. So your destination, you had a specific place right away in mind? You had somewhere that came to you very quickly?
Yeah.
So you knew very quickly which destination you were going to go?
Yeah, I knew that was something I wanted to do and place I wanted to go to. And
got it. And then you shared that with your family.
Yeah.
You discussed it and everybody agreed. Yep. Love that.
And then I do all the work.
So now that we agreed, good luck. Now it's yours. Yeah. So you know what? Actually, it's a good segue.
Yep.
Because that's going to be now that we are there. We were talking about your first thought. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go down the path, going down to the purchase of your product and even the satisfaction of your experience. Okay. So we are right here after your first thought. You share it with your family. Everybody seems to be on the same page. What did you do then? What was next? Once you discussed that evening, you had a glass of wine, you say, hey, why don't we go there for vacation? It's great. It's outdoor. It's not too far. It's not raining. Seems to be like a good spot to go. What do you guys think? Everybody agreed. What did you do next?
Well, next I narrowed down my research in terms of.
How did you do that? How did you narrow down your research?
You mean by which means, or?
Yeah, did you go on different websites?
Yeah, definitely online, different website. I read about the place. I kind of got a sense of what was around the area, and actually an important piece of it, I had a good friend who actually had also been there prior and gave me some recommendations of places to stay or closest town to, etc. So referrals also and recommendations were kind of part of that. But then mostly online researching, reading, and yeah, narrowing down places that I seem to like the most.
So when you say reading, you were reading reviews, or did you go on the hotel's website, or did you go on?
Yeah, definitely reviews, yes. But more so the actual website, the actual information about the area and that sort of thing.
Were you the only one to research for this, Isabel, or did anyone else help you to search?
No, just me.
Just you.
Yeah.
And do you remember what website? I mean, except the hotel's website that you went to, is there, like an Expedia, TripAdvisor, or those kind of websites you went to, or did you use those, or no, for that trip?
I usually always look there anyway, just so I can compare what I see on those sites versus what I might see on the actual proprietary website. But I also definitely looked at the state website as it pertains to restrictions and COVID-19 and requirements, so that I would understand what was allowed, not allowed, what was required, not required. And so that I knew what I needed to have or not have necessarily in order to fly there or to drive there or to whatever the case may be. So I looked at that as well quite a bit because things were changing pretty rapidly. So I kept up to date on that state or those states' requirements as I was, getting ready to book the trip.
If you had seen a website of a hotel not talking about what they were doing about COVID-19, would that have influenced your decision to go there, you think, or not?
If they were not talking about it, you mean?
Correct, yes. If you go on the website and, it's just like a regular website, there is no warning, nothing that they say about what they do about.
I would feel more confident if the website, whether it's a hotel or whatever it is, has some communication around COVID-19, definitely.
In order for you to go to that destination, so right now you are looking for option as far as properties or places to stay, but all of them are in the same more or less the same location, correct?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah.
Did you have to drive there or fly there?
Both.
And you were fine with that as well? And when you were looking for information on how how to rent a car or how to fly, was it important as well to have those COVID-19 measures that those providers could offer?
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course it's important. But I actually feel pretty comfortable. I think the airlines are doing a really good job, and I think everybody has a different comfort level when it comes to traveling right now, or getting on a plane or a train or whatever it may be. But I also think a big piece of that is the traveler's responsibility. So I have my masks and my wipes and my sanitizer and all those things with me, so that I am able to at least take care of that piece if I am sitting on an airplane and I want to sanitize the the seat or whatever it may be. But I think a piece of that is definitely the traveler's responsibility.
Okay. And what was the most helpful thing in helping you decide which product to buy? You were talking about referrals from friends, or what made you choose, or looking more carefully into one product than another? Is there something that stand out, or
Yeah,
it's a combination of them?
enough. I mean, I was trying to find something that would be a little bit of outside of the um, um, typical brands that we are familiar with. I wanted an experience that would be a little bit different, and more unusual, or just something that I had not perhaps done before, maybe.
Okay. So you
I
were
wasn't
looking.
the standard, you know, brand that are great, but that's not what I was looking for.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. So, um, do you know how long this stage of, looking around, checking the properties, checking the website, asking your friend for recommendation? Do you know how long you spend, just gathering information and passively, looking and just, saying, well, what's out there? Do you know
Maybe a
how long it took?
couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks? Would you say a month, or a bit more than a month, or out of the 3 or 4 months that it took you to buy,
No,
would you say it was a?
no, no. I would say, the more I think the more involved a trip is, obviously, the longer it takes. The longer the trip is, the more different places you put in that trip, then the longer it will take to plan it. In this particular case, it was a short, easy trip. So a couple of weeks between the time I thought of it, figured that's what I wanted to do, going there, a couple of weeks, yeah.
Couple of weeks. Um, so let me go here. What made your research more serious? I think you were saying that the COVID situation seems to be, or that, well, yeah, actually, I don't know. What made your research more serious? Once you gathered all those information, what make you, be like, okay, I should really be narrowing, I need to narrow it down, and I need to look at my, few options, or how did you narrow down your research? And did you have any struggle trying to narrow those options down that you were looking at? Because I'm
Not
pretty sure you didn't have just only one choice, right? You had a
not really,
couple of.
because the choices were not that, it's not like there was a ton and a ton and a ton of choices. Of course, there was choices to be made, but it wasn't like, huge amount of, oh my gosh, there are so many different places to choose from. So from that perspective, it was much easier. And what I was looking for was a little bit more unusual and non-branded, and so there was less of that available. So therefore, that narrowed down the choice by itself, pretty much.
Were you happy about those options that you had found?
Once I got there, you mean,
No,
or?
no, 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 no. At the time where you were looking for information, were you happy with what so far came out of your research?
Yeah, I was. They were very, the website were beautiful. And so therefore they seemed to be really cool places. And so, yeah, it was pretty exciting.
Do you remember roughly how many options you had at that time? So you're not ready yet to buy. I mean, we are, you're just after the passive
Yeah,
stage, like where you are looking around and you're like, okay, what do I have now? I don't want those big brands. What am I left with?
there were
Do you,
quite a few choices, but non-branded, more unique, much less, you know. And really, I think I had primarily maybe three really stick to my mind that
okay,
I first wanted to look at.
got it. So once you got those three choices, once you really start to be more active about it,
Yeah.
uh, how did you drill down? What did you look at uh, to?
So I looked at their availability,
Mhm.
number one, right? Um, what they had there that was open or not open, what they were offering. I looked at the rates, although they were somewhat similar. Um, and I think I reached out with a couple questions. And actually, I think they were all pretty on the quick to respond. And so normally that would be a differentiator for me as well. If somebody responds pretty quickly and accurately, obviously I'm going to be more confident about that particular location. Um, but they were pretty similar. So I had set my heart on one place, but I didn't book it right away. And 2 days later, they were sold out. So then that made it pretty easy. That took that one out. And then I only had another couple to choose from. So
How long did
I
it?
also knew I had to probably book pretty quickly now, and not wait too much longer.
Got it. So how long did it took you to go to that specific? You had three in mind, and you're going down to that one. How long did it took you to say this is the one I want? Do you remember that? Do you know how long it could have took you to go from those three to this specific one that you couldn't get at the end? But
I think that happened pretty quickly, actually. As I was browsing and looking at various places, when I saw two in particular, I kind of knew I wanted to stay at one of those. From the website, from what I was seeing online and reading and location. Um, yeah.
so that property really nailed down everything you were kind of looking at, kind of like.
It it fit the purpose of this trip in some ways.
Did you call them?
I did. Yeah.
And they told you there was no availability. Sorry, we just cannot make it work.
Yeah, they had just sold out. They had no more availability. And so I asked them if they could refer me to a similar property. And they did. And it
Huh.
was indeed similar. And that's actually where I stayed.
Was it a sister property or a competitor? Do you know?
Not just a competitor, but I mean, um, friendly competitor, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So we are at a stage now where you were just telling me, uh, so that option, the first option was not doable. You call that option, just giving you a second option. So we are there. So you're calling that second option that your ideal property, I mean,
Mhm.
you cannot have it. So you're just down to one at this point, or you still have someone else than this referral in
No,
mind?
at this point, I'm ready to book it. If they have availability, I'm ready to book that.
And do you know why? What happened to the other one? You had one more before. Why did it go?
Oh, I think I just I looked up the recommendation that I was given, and I really liked it. And that was it. I thought, it's great. And I called, and I had a very good experience with the person who answered the phone, with
Mhm.
whom I communicated a few extra times after that. And each time the, the exchange was a good one. So I was sold.
Did you had some kind of anxiety about this purchase, or not at all? You were just confident the whole way, or
No,
did
the only
something make you nervous?
not really anxiety. My only question was to make sure that if something happened between the time I booked and the time I was going, let's say I become sick or they close down or who knows what, that I wouldn't lose my purchase, obviously. And so they told me that they wouldn't be crediting it, but I could reuse it, you know, for a period valid of, pretty long time.
Got it.
So I knew I would have a credit. Of course, I would sit on a credit like many people do now, whether it's airline or whatever it may be. But I would make sure I would take that trip at a later time and use it. So I was okay with that.
We're okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you really narrow it down to that property, did you ask anyone else what they thought about the property and that trip that you were
No,
gonna make?
no.
Okay. Did you what kind of image, or from what you saw on the website, from your interaction, did you had a very clear idea of what the experience would be? Did you had a clear sense of
Yes, I did.
what was coming your way?
I did. From the website, from what I was looking at, I had a good idea. I felt like I had a good idea of how it was
Do,
going to be.
do you remember? Do you remember when you had a very clear vision of that potential experience? Do you remember? Is there a moment where, after an interaction with a property, where you're like, okay, now I get it, I really sense it? Do you remember that time where you were like, okay, I got it, this is it, this is going to be good? And do you remember that time? Did that strike you at one point, or?
It happened pretty quickly. I mean, I spent a little time on the website. I went back to it a few times, and it felt the same each time.
Do you
Like,
know what? Do you know where you were when that happened? When you were thinking of this, do you know where you were when you were like, I know it's going to be like that. Do you know where were you, at the office or at home, or?
both.
Oh, okay. How many interaction did you have with the property? You said you called them a couple of times and you had questions, right? So it seems that you were calling them to answer questions.
With a young lady who was working there. Yes, maybe. I mean, we had both email exchanges and also phone conversations. I would
Mm-hmm.
say maybe 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm. 4 or 5 times.
Mhm.
Did you find? Did you think you wasted time during that research, or it was inefficient in any way, or you really
No, no,
were?
because at the same time, you learn a lot of stuff about where you're going. So I didn't feel like I was wasting any time.
Got it. So you got the information that you wanted to have right away,
Pretty much, yeah.
pretty much. So you seem that you have decided where you're going. You know what's coming your way. You shared with your family what the trip is going to be. When
Mhm.
you talk to them, what did you tell them as far as that property? Now you're there. You're going to purchase. You're going to click on the button. You're the day before. What did you tell them about that trip, that experience that was coming their way, your way? What did you do? You remember how you
Well,
said, "Hey"?
I think I shared the website, told them to take a look at it, told them what I had booked. And so they did that. And
What did they say? Was they happy, or did they have any question? Like, are you sure? Is that the right time? Did they bring any kind of?
they were coming up with some stuff they wanted to do and try, and yeah, they were pretty excited.
When they told you about the things they wanted to do, did, is that when you had to call the property to check with them that if those things could be done?
No. Now, calling the property was more about the actual booking and the room type and that sort of thing.
So was your family on board, or they had some some questions? Are you sure it's at the right time? I mean, sometimes it can be financial as well, or there was nothing came up.
Not really. Not really. I mean, there can always be a little something, but then, you know, it. No, there was nothing major that made them not want to travel or not want to go.
Okay.
It was a pretty easy sell.
Okay, got it. So you didn't have too much resistance about the destination and the time it happened.
No.
Okay. What tipped you to that specific product or service? If there is one thing about that property that you were like, that property has this thing that we need. Do you know what it was, or is that something that really tipped you? Something that you were like, that nailed it?
No.
Not really.
No. That we need, you mean like in my business, or?
No. In your travel, when you were ready to, when you had this property in mind, was there something that make you think that it was the right property to go to? Like something that makes you like, for sure, this is the right choice? I mean, is there something that came out more than something else that you were waiting for? Like,
I think you can always have surprises, right? So that's one thing for sure. But in terms of the feel that it gave me when I looked at it and what I was really going after and looking for, it was what I was looking for. So there's a difference between that, and then perhaps the next question would be, well, was it exactly that when you got there? But that's a different conversation. But at the time, what I was looking for, this fit exactly what I was looking for.
Got it. Well, we are getting close to the end, Isa.
Yep.
Now I'm going to ask you about, you bought your product, you went there.
Yep.
When you went there, how did it go? As you were there, when you were consuming the property, when you were enjoying the property, how did it feel? Try to put yourself when you were there. Did you get what the image you had in mind before going there? Was it fitting, or was there a difference? And if there was a difference, which difference did you find?
There was a difference. It was fine. It wasn't a problem because it was, just a fun, cool experience and trip. But there was a difference. I felt like the property itself did not really measure perhaps to what they were offering online, etc. Or I thought there was a bit of a difference between what you saw on their website and the real thing. But I think to me the most important piece, which would be actually the service and the people who work there. They were great. And that's what would make me come back there, go back there. If it wasn't for that, I probably would try something else next time.
Could you pinpoint the difference between what you saw online and the experience you had? What was it, the room that was different, the environment?
I can totally pinpoint it. I think the property was a lot more run down than it showed when you look at it on the website. That really would be the number one.
Was it a frustration you mentioned during that stay, or you didn't? Did you share this with any family members, or you just kept it for yourself?
No, I didn't, because I think they were trying their best. You know, and since I'm sort of, I understand how the back end works sometimes in that business. I didn't, you know. Perhaps I would have if I didn't get the people piece of it, then maybe I would have said something, but it would not have really made any big difference. And it didn't really impact my ability to have a good time.
Very good. Were your family happy? Did they feel the same way? Did they share something with you that they were surprised about, or positively or negatively?
We kind of all felt the same way. Yeah, definitely. But we were all having a good time and happy to be there anyway. So
so the good time on the service took over the deception that you had with the. You were talking about COVID and, you know, all the steps that properties was taking there. Did you feel safe there? Did you see that happening?
Yes, although not at the same level as here, for example. This was in another state, and it was just different, not as elevated as we see it around here.
Did you feel safe?
I felt pretty safe, yeah. Yeah, again, you know, I have my own stuff I have with me everywhere I go, and yeah, I felt pretty safe.
Okay, so this did not come up with your family members as far as, you know, oh, they're a bit light on that side. That was not.
No, the three of us. There were a couple of times where we thought, you know, borderline, but at the end of the day, we fine. So.
And your trip, the transportation, everything was, you know, happening like it was supposed to be. You were good. You were feeling confident in the airplane, in the car you rented. Everything went smoothly, and
the only thing, everything went well. The only thing I think that we didn't think about, which would have been to be expected, I guess, but we didn't think about it, is that for example, from the airport to your rental car location, you take a bus. They drive you there by bus, and because of COVID, they can only have up to, I don't remember, 8 people in the bus. So it takes a lot longer for you. You just have a long wait once you get to the airport to arrive to your rental car destination, because you have to wait for the bus and there's a lot of people there. So that's the one thing, is we waited a long time and we didn't think about it. It's the only thing.
Okay. So overall, you had a fantastic trip, it sounds like.
We had a good time. We had a good time. Yeah, we had great fun. Yeah.
Well, I saw a few pictures, guys. I'm not going to share it today.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was fun.
Good. Isa, I want to thank you for giving me a lot of your time today and guiding us through that journey in details. You gave us a lot of good information that now I will have to reorganize on my end.
Good luck.
Thank you, Isa. And well, listen, thank you very much. I appreciate your partnership with us, with Standard Textile,
Of
and
course.
I see you. I see you very soon. I'm
Yes.
going to stop the recording, and then we can chit chat a little bit after.
Ok, ça marche.
Okay? So I'm going to stop the video. Everybody who is watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you don't enjoy Isabel, I mean, you know, she's a big star here in San Francisco, and I'm so happy.
Sure.
So happy to have you as a friend and a customer, both. You know,
Thank you,
that what
Pierre.
makes my day. So thank you, everybody. We connect soon. Isa, you stay with me.
Bye.
Bye.